Welcome back to video number 5 in the MoreCore extension tutorial series. My name's Damien, and in this session we're going to be looking at the attack roll. So MoreCore already has a THACO roll to hit armor class 0 roll, and it has the syntax /THAC 0 space 1d20x and then a numeric value being the number that's required to hit 0. So this is using that horribly archaic descending armor class system, but that's what Basic Expert uses, so that's what we're coding. Now we want to make some improvements to that. So the very first thing we're going to do is incorporate the new parameters into our role, and you can see that when we create our new role, we can add in all the bits and pieces to set P1 up as our role, and then we can, on the front sheet of the character sheet, we can enter in 19, 18, 17 as our character gets higher, and it will use that value to calculate the rolls. Now I've jumped into the combat tracker and I've added our hero, whose name is now Xantar, and he has attacked the basilisk, and he's made a couple of decent rolls there. You can see the final roll reports 1d20 x 19 melee attack. Attack 18 was the dice roll, so that would hit on an armor class 1 or higher, and as a basilisk has an armor class of 7, this would have been a successful hit. So we want to do a couple of extra things here. First thing we want to do is get the reporting on the targeting. So in the combat tracker, our character has successfully targeted the basilisk, so I'd like that to be reported in the role. So that's the very first thing that we're going to go and have a look at. So I've located the role in our scripts folder, and the role is called Manager Custom THACO.lure, or THAC 0, to hit armor class 0.lure. And we've got to do a bunch of different things, but the first thing that we're going to do is ensure that it can report who we're targeting. And to do that, we start with the onLanded function, onLanded, and I'm going to add in rTarget to the existing record there. So it was rroll equals get dice results rroll, and now we've added in rTarget as well. The next bit we do is go down to get dice results, and we're going to add rTarget in there as well, and then we're going to scroll down further down that function, the get dice results function, and we're going to add these lines. If rTarget is not nil, then now this doesn't look quite so good now that I've written it later on. S hit result, string hit result equals string hit result line return versus, and then the target name. So rtarget.sname will be the target of the entry that's in the combat tracker, and the reason we put if rtarget is not nil means if they're not targeting, it won't try and append this. If it tries to append this value with when there isn't a target value, it'll just generate an error and it won't actually report anything at all. So we're still in get dice results, but we're going to scroll back up a little bit higher, and what we're going to do is add some code in here to check the results. Now there's a few different old school versions here, and in some systems one is a critical miss, some it's an automatic miss, and the same for 20s. For some systems it's an automatic hit, some it's a critical hit, and in some it's just a number. And I'm going to make a determination here that a 1 is always an automatic miss. So we've got n total is if n total is equal to 1, and the double equal signs mean that it's checking to see if the values are equal rather than trying to set the values. Then we're going to do s hit result is automatic miss. Then we're doing an else if, and getting these in the right order is half of the challenge. So the next one is checking if the results are 20, then we're going to set the string hit result to automatic hit. The next one is a little bit trickier. We're doing an else if our target does not equal nil. So that means so long as targeting is not missing, or there's no target, then we're going to do if n thaco minus n total is less than or equal to number db.getValue r target dot string ct node dot defense. So we'll break that down a little bit. The r target dot string ct node dot defense is the node path for our armor class value. So defense is the actual armor class value. CT node will be the combat tracker node reference. R target is the target that our character has got activated in the combat tracker or on the map, and then db.getValue is going to pull that value out, and toNumber is going to change that value that it's bringing out, because it'll probably bring it out as a string value and it'll force it as into a numeric value, because we're comparing it to another mathematical formula, so math needs to compare to math. And so we got if our to hit armor class 0 value minus n total, which we'll scroll back up a little bit in a minute and check, minus n total, which is the result of our dice roll plus any modifiers. So if that value is less than or equal to our toNumber, then our result will be a hit. Else, if that formula is, that total is greater than the armor class, we're going to have a miss. Now that sounds wrong initially. We were rolling low. The reason rolling low is not actually rolling low, it's to do with the descending armor class, and we're actually taking our roll away from our to hit armor class 0 roll, and it's a bit of math. It took me a little bit to get my head around it when we do it, but trust me, the math should be good. Now the next one is, so then we end that nested if else statement. We continue back with our first else if statement, and we've got if n total is greater than our to hit armor class 0 value minus 9, then there's no way for this to be a hit, regardless of what the target's armor class is. So these next two checks are checking, and they or making a determination if we haven't rolled a 1, we haven't rolled a 20, and we haven't got a target in the combat tracker. What it's going to do is report whether it thinks that we've got a chance of hitting. So it'll either say a miss, or it'll say that we would have hit on an armor class of whatever this formula adds up to or higher, and then we end this. So we'll do a couple of rolls now and see how that plays out. So we can see our roll here. We've got our THACO 0, 1d20, x19. x19 is the to hit armor class 0 for all classes in the particular flavour of BX that we're working from. We've enabled the formula. We're basically just using P1. We're calling it THACO, and we've put P1 in here, and that basically allows us to have a 19 on the sheet here. Keeps it nice and simple. So when I roll this attack, rolls a 16, we're targeting a giant ant, and we'll go and have a quick peek in the combat tracker, and we'll see that the giant ant in this case has an armor class of 5. So our armor class of 5 or 16 has, so we can see that we're attacking the giant ant. We can see that we roll a 16, and that is being ruled as a hit. I'll do a couple more of these. A 10 is declared as a miss, a 15 as a hit. We can also do things like add modifiers. So if I click on the strength modifier, which is not a valid modifier, but we're just using it for the example, you can see down the bottom it's added +2 modifier, and now when I roll this, we will roll an 11, +2 is 13, and we can see it's reported our roll with a modifier of strength, the result 13, and it's still a miss. We'll do it another time, and 19 +2, that's going to be a hit. So we can see again our attack roll, the modifier strength, the sum total roll, the result's a hit, and it's versus the giant ant. So that's all working as intended. Now we'll go into combat tracker and we will clear the targeting. So we're just going to do a straight attack roll now with no target. We roll this, it's a 13, and we have an error. So we've got an error thrown up in the console, and we've got, you can see I've got a whole bunch of debug commands up here further. I litter the code with debugs that tries to help me determine what's happening and go back and check things. This stuff is not natural for me. So string scripts manager custom thaco.lua line 170. Attempt to perform arithmetic on a global thaco which is a nil value. Okay, so we will go and check out our file, and we'll have a look here. Grab this, paste it where you guys can see it, and we can see that line 170 is else if n total is less than thaco minus 9, but what it's saying is that thaco is a nil value, and we can see that we've got thaco down here as well. This is the first time that thaco has been used. We can see up here that the value probably should have been n thaco rather than thaco. A bit of a typo here for me, so we're just going to quickly change that out, and okay, we can see the updated result. I'm going to reload the rule set after saving those. I'm going to retest that roll. This time we've rolled again, and it's rolled a 15. Remember, we've got no targeting, so it's still reported the attack roll. It's still reported that we've rolled an attack with a result of 15, and now it's said that based on our thaco we would have hit an armor class 4 or higher. We'll do a couple more rolls here. 17 is going to be hit again. This time it's going to hit armor class 2 or higher. Higher being worse. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are all worse armor classes. We'll hopefully roll something low shortly. Don't get the high rolls at this time. Okay, 1 as an automatic miss. We're going to do another one until we get something that's calculated as a miss. So a 6 is never going to hit an armor class that's 9 or better. So that's where that result is. And again, we can use modifiers. We'll throw in a few extra modifiers here, and we'll roll the attack again. 17 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 is a 21, so it would have hit an armor class of -2 or higher. So a pretty wicked roll. We'll quickly go back and check the other bit where we were getting some of those values we used to calculate. We can see here that at the top of Get Dice Results I've got a local number thaco, which is 2number rroll.n thaco. There's a few debug commands in there, of course, and what else can we see there? We've also had to declare local shit result, just redeclare it as a nil result, so that it would not keep the records all the way through, which it did at one point through there. And we can see that n total equals n total plus rroll.nmod. Rroll.nmod picks up all the entries out of the modifier window. So once we've grabbed those parts out of there, we've got this roll that now allows us to be able to apply an attack against a target and declare a result. So that's a step more than what we normally do in MoreCore, but certainly as you can see it's pretty straightforward in how to do that. So what we might do next is have a look at how to have damage rolls automatically actually inflict damage if a target has been selected. Now the thaco roll, we could just modify that roll, because that roll is pretty much only used for to hit armor class 0 rule sets, right? So we could modify that one, but damage is used in all sorts of different systems, so we're going to actually create a new roll. So we've got a damage roll. We can see here that the damage roll is actually /damage, so we probably have to create a new roll type. We might do something like /db damage, and we'll go and do that. So So we locate the manager custom damage lure script, and we're going to simply duplicate that first, and then we're going to rename it manager custom db damage. There's a little variation between these scripts. They've evolved over time. Some of them I've messed up, some of them I messed up more than others, but basically we start with the local S command and we're going to change it to db damage. Now I'm at the end of the create role function, and there's actually a mistake in here, and it's a mistake that I had in the previous script. It's probably a mistake that I've got in several other scripts that Ian M. Ward just helped me resolve after making a few choice remarks in my direction. But anyway, he got me through it. Basically, my lines 103, 104, 106 are incorrect. I need to replace local role. Well, that one I really just needing to update, and we're going to change the S type to use SCMD, which is just the variable we declare at the top, which should be the same as changing that to db damage, but we're going to do that, and then we're also going to replace the action manager perform action, because we're not supposed to be doing the perform action again here. We're supposed to actually be returning the R role. So I'm going to replace 103, 4 and 6 with 108, 109. So then we're going to go and find create chat message, slightly different place to where we had it in Thaco. That's because we are declaring those messages in a different spot. We're going to add our code to check for if our target is active or not. If our target does not equal nil, then rMessage.text equals rMessage.text plus versus the target name. But because we're using our target in here, we're also going to have to add our target to our function. So create chat message from our source, our role and our target. And we're also going to have to find where create chat message is called. That's way back up here in onLanded, and we're going to add our target to that as well. So our message equals create chat message, our source, our role, our target. We'll save that, and then we've got to add this role into the rule set. So going to the help file, which you can access from the chat window and also from the help marks and various different MoreCore specific interfaces, and then click on adding new roles. So in your scripts manager custom my new role, set the role type. We've done that. Include this new script in base.xml. That's the next thing we want to do. You can see that I've added a new script entry in here called custom dice db damage, and it's pointing to the file path of our new script. The next step in the instructions is to define a new graphic. So we'll need to quickly whip up a graphic for that. I've created a new button icon with a blood splatter on it, and now I'm in the graphics icons file and I'm adding this new one. So icon name db damage, and then the path to my file name. So the next step according to this is to set up the auto icon definitions, which we do in the campaign/template_campaign.xml file, and there's actually 3 places times 2 that we need to set this in. So we go down and we find that we've got to set this in parameters icons, and that is the icon name, so db damaged, which is the that's using the script name for db damage. Then the value is, which is the next field, is using the name that we defined the icon for in the graphics icons file, which again, to keep it simple, I called it db damage. And then the third entry is a tooltip, so when you hover your mouse over it, it tells you roughly what it is, and we've just called that db damage with a couple of caps in there. And if you scroll down, that's for the button icon cycler, and then you also need to scroll down and do it for the button vary icon, and that is, one of them is for the roles library and one of them is for the roles themselves. So we add those in, save those files, and then the next step is to go to campaign record cas.xml, and in that file we're going to find where we just got to set a couple more parameters up in here. These files get longer and longer and longer as we add more and more roles to each of these, but basically we're going to go down almost to the end, making sure that we copy the correct roles. We're adding another else if command, and this is where we reference that stuff that we just created. So we're going to, if the S command is db damage and it's a roles type, and then we're going to set the value as db damage, which is going to be the icon name. And we can see that there, else if S command equals db damage, so that's all good. And our final step then was dice help. We're not going to do that just at the moment. Dice help, the create help message, which is a little bit deprecated. We do need to add it to the help file, which is the HTML file on the web, but we're just going to save those, and we're going to reload our rule set and cross our fingers and hope that this has worked. All we've done so far is create a new role, and in the new role we've told it to declare the target if there is one. So we've made quite a few changes in there, and let's hope that some or all of them work. So we're going to edit this short bow damage, and we're going to change it from damage to db damage, and okay, straight away our icon has changed to an invalid one, so, or just to the default one, which means that my somewhere in the role definition where we do all that string cycler, icon cycler stuff is incorrect. So we'll test the next bit, just change these to db damage, and we'll roll it, and it's damage 4 versus giant ant. So we got that part of it correct. So we're just going to quickly go back and find out which part we missed in the dice rolls, in the icon setup. Fortunately, it was a nice simple error, and I just simply forgotten to save some of those files. I'd updated the files and hit save on them twice, in fact, probably because I was too busy talking to you instead. So we can see now that the icon is automatically updated to this new blood splatter, and if I hover over it, it's db damage, and when I roll it, it's 1 versus giant ant, and we need to just check the inverse of that too, so we need to remove the targeting and see if it still rolls happily. 1 damage, no target. Awesome. So the next thing we're going to do is try and apply that damage. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to make sure I know what the correct database node or database value that I'm going to be updating is. So I hit save on my campaign /save in the chat window, and then I go and load the db.xml for this particular campaign, and I searched for giant ant, found him in the combat tracker. It's ID number 3 or ID-00003 in the combat tracker, and I've found the record with the value 14, which is how many hit points he's got on the combat tracker. So I can see health type equals number, value is 14. So it's going to be his CT node dot health is the value that we're going to be trying to change. This is going to be fairly similar to what we just did for the attack roll, and we're going to check those numbers. This time we're going to actually change the numbers though. We're going to apply this value and modify the health number. So I continued on working through this in the create chat message now, and I know we're not actually creating the chat message, but we've got the variables and stuff that we need at the moment, and we're not doing any dice rolling and stuff, we're just modifying parts of the database. And when we do this, we're wanting to do this in something that we only want to do this if the target has been verified, and we've already got a verify target statement here, so I decided to stick the stuff in here. Now in this video it seems like I've only been gone for 10 seconds, but I was actually gone for about an hour messing around with this, and ultimately the code that I've done here is really quite simple. So that might sound disheartening to some of you, it might sound ridiculous and funny to others of you, but ultimately I'm really bad at this. but I do it because I enjoy doing it. I do it because there's light at the end of the tunnel. I do it because I love to see other people playing games on Fantasy Grounds. Want to see them playing the games that they want to play on Fantasy Grounds. So I persist with this. Now, some of you will pick this up and run with it, no problems. But the reason I'm telling you how hard it is for me is because, honestly, if I can get my head this far around it, if I can get it this far, then I really think that a lot more of you who maybe think that you can't, really can. I have no programming ability, I've got no programming training, and the guys that do help me with programming know this is so totally true. But anyway, what we've got here is I've declared a new variable called local myTargetHealth, and I've done that just to make sure that no figures, that they don't carry over anywhere else. Then we've got our if our target is not nil check, and it's actually still the existing one from before. You can see on line 150 we've still got our versus target name. We've got some extra fields in here now. We've got a new variable myTargetHealth, which is equal to, we'll start at the other end, health associated with our target dot string ct node, which is basically the entry in the combat tracker, and for that targeted enemy, that's their node reference, dot health, which is the value that we're looking for. So we're doing a db.getValue, and it'll return a string. So we're doing a 2 number on it, and so we're obviously saving a number. In this case, the giant ant has a health, or hit points, but it's health in the database of 14. So that will basically recover 14, and to confirm that, we'll do a debug.console myTargetHealth, and that will return 14 in the debug logs. Then our target new health is going to be the current health, myTargetHealth, minus our roll.a total, which is the damage roll from a little bit further above. We can see that on line 133 we've used roll.a total. It's determined somewhere else, but it's available to us here. So 14 minus whatever the damage roll is, and again another sanity check, debug console for my target new health. Then line 146 we've got local myTarget equals our target dot string ct node dot health. So again, we just just assigning that node, that whole node value to the variable myTarget, and then we're doing a db set value on myTarget. It's a type number, and myTarget new health is the new value for that, which, say we rolled a 5 for damage, would be 14 minus 5, which is 9, so it would assign 9 to it, and then it's going to just output our message. So let's go and have a look and roll a few dice. Of course, anytime you make changes to the script, and I did many changes, reload the table in between. So we've got our short bow damage with our lovely blood spatter. I click on that, rolls a 4, and now it says Xantar short bow damage 4 versus giant ant, and we look at the combat tracker. Awesome, our hit points went from 14 down to 10. Let's roll this a couple more times, and 10 minus 5 is 5, 4 minus 1. So we'll probably put a little bit of extra error checking in there, and if the resultant value is less than 0, just to leave it at 0, and the character should be dead at that point. And that's getting pretty close to where we want to go with this. I'll add in some extra code here for that, but I'm not going to put it into this tutorial. Once again, please follow along, please actually try this stuff. Either do the exact codes that I'm doing, just so you get used to typing it, get used to troubleshooting it, make some typos or whatever and troubleshoot them, or do your own roles and do these same methods and work through all the shenanigans that I've been working through. Work through all the permutations of how to pull the string value up, or convert it to a number, or to replace a value, set a value, join values together, whatever it is that you're doing. Best way to learn this stuff is to actually do it. I look forward to hopefully seeing some creations that you guys are making. Thanks.